to Canucks After Dark. Here are your hosts, Parker Hallowell and Clay Emo.
Good evening, Vancouver, and welcome back to Canucks After Dark here on Monday, September 20th, 2021, episode 2 of season 2. And this is the last episode of Canucks After Dark before the next Vancouver Canucks hockey game. It has been a long off season. We're right on the home stretch. We've got rookie camp wrapping up. We got training camp starting in a matter of 48 hours or so. I don't know the exact number, but less than that, I guess. It would be like 36 hours. And the Canucks play a preseason game on Sunday. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are you doing today, Clay?
I'm great, Parker. I trust you are well as well. Another signal that the season has started is the Jake Milford charity golf tournament, and I got to volunteer at it today. It was good.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't get me onto the course today. I was a little bit disappointed. I
tried, man.
Get a quick round in on the ridge, and
yeah, you could have given me lessons right there. But I think entry was. I saw a few $1,000, so I definitely. Ooh. Yeah, but I would have snuck you on. I'd do that for you, man. I'd do that for you.
You know, I do get lots of views on YouTube, as you know, but that's a little out of my price range.
You need some more goat members, I think, for that. So interesting, Parker, really quickly, no Canucks players or coaches this year because of COVID, COVID protocol, 3 days away from training camp, as you mentioned. But there were certainly sponsors there, which is good for them. And some alumni, including Thomas Gradine and Kirk McLean and Darcy Rhoda, and then a couple broadcasters. Sportsnet 650 was out there doing some stuff. So overall, still good. You know, I feel good giving back, not just obviously working in my church all the time, but doing something else in the community. And all money raised from this tournament, as always, goes to the Canucks for Kids Fund. So a very good cause, of course.
Excellent cause. And we do have some things to actually talk about tonight. We've been talking for weeks and weeks about, it's like, we're pushing for training camp. We're pushing till we have some actual news, and sort of just like relying on Hughes and Pettersson eventually signing and hoping for that. And we do have a little bit to talk about on that. Of course, they have not signed yet as far as we know. But we do have, like I said, training camp literally starts on Wednesday. The Canucks play a preseason game on Sunday, and in 3 weeks we have the regular season kicking off. So we're going to have a couple of episodes during sort of preseason, and then we're going to have one basically, I think, 2 days before the regular season opens up, and then we're right into the thick of it.
So finally, I think, Parker, it's safe to say, starting today, hopefully, no, we're not going to run out of things to talk about because the Canucks will always be playing at least. So we can always go back to the games if we need to.
Yeah, no, we're fully in it, and I'm very excited for all of you guys in the chat. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you are going to miss any part of the show tonight, you want to go to bed a little early, you can always catch the podcast version up after the show, up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And if you want to just rewind the YouTube video at any point, you can. That is the magic of YouTube. Clay, let's get started. Do we want to start up with what just finished up and just sort of touch on the rookie camp here, which I know we both were very invested in, very focused on. We watched all the Twitter highlights. We snuck into the arena and watched the practices. What's your rookie camp recap thoughts, whatever few words you might have to say about it?
Yeah, so I didn't get to go to Rogers Arena. I was just seeing what you saw, what everyone else saw. 4 days. It's kind of funny. I don't know about you. I will admit, I thought it was only going to be a 1 day camp. Did you know it was going to be 4 days?
I heard 1 day.
Okay.
And then it was 4. I think most people thought it was 1 day because I remember on Twitter, like, people were like, yeah, Ryan Johnson just said the camp is 4 days. And the media were like, oh, we all thought it was 1 as well. So, kind of odd, but they got 4 days of camping. We didn't hear too much from it. They did a bit of media, but other than that, it was pretty low key.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's 2 guys that people were most interested in. We talked about this last week. Did indeed impress well enough. Podkolzin, of course, people expect him to battle for a second or third line spot, and we're all excited to see what he can do after 3 years of playing in the KHL, 2 after he got drafted by us. And then, of course, Klimovich apparently performed well as well, enough where he might get a look. If I had to bet, I don't think he's going to make the team coming out of a training camp, but an exhibition. But at least he held well and he showed well. And I think, it gives us hope, at least for maybe this second round, high risk, high reward pick may turn out. Of course, it's so early to say, right? That's the whole point of this camp.
Yeah, it's definitely too early to say, but the Canucks need, I've said this before, but to run a successful organization, to try to put like a dynasty together, you can't just have one roster of people and then they're all going to age out or salary out or whatever. You have to have a continuous push of new young players coming into the lineup, revitalizing the lineup, bringing in fresh, cheap blood. And having guys like Klimovich, because we look at this team and we say this is a team that's hopefully a playoff team, but I don't think anyone's really saying, okay, this is a Stanley Cup contender of a roster right now, right? So we're looking at this team and saying, okay, well, what are we going to need to get to that point? Because this roster is probably not going to do it. But as we keep adding in younger players and free agents and trades and all these things that are going to eventually build into a team, young guys coming up like Klimovich are going to have to be a part of that.
Yes. And you did a pretty good job. I know you did a nice preview video and you actually went through every single one of the guys that were going to be there. Did you hear of anyone else than those 2 guys that you're particularly interested in?
A little bit. Connor Lockhart was an interesting name that lots of people in my comments were very interested in. People saying that, sort of a high risk, high reward pick that the Canucks went for that. I don't know if he really impressed. I didn't hear too much about him, but he might be someone to watch out for. But again, we always say this about these, high risk, high reward 5th, 6th, 7th round picks. And 95% of the time they never play an NHL game. So I'm not going to get too far and away excited about them. I'm of course really excited to see what Jet Wu ends up doing this year. He actually had time in a top 4 role in the AHL last year. So hopefully he can progress, try to get a spot on the top pairing for Abbotsford this year. And then hopefully, next year or the year after, he's trying to push into the lineup on a cheap deal that can maybe have him filling in the 5 or 6 spot.
Yeah, he peaked pretty early, didn't he? At least from a development standpoint. He got drafted the same year as Quinn Hughes in 2018, and then really nothing. He kind of hit a wall, and granted, he did play okay in Abbotsford and Utica last year. And who knows if Rathbone ends up down on the farm, so to speak, that could be the top pairing in Abbotsford. And that's not bad, actually. That's not bad at all, especially if we expect Rathbone to make the team eventually. If Wu's playing with them, that should give him confidence. So that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, we saw Wu. Like Wu got drafted in 2018. The season after that, he was excellent, right? He had his 66 points in 62 games. Then he got traded to Calgary the following year, fell off a little bit, and then had his first chance with Utica this year. And we look at this Canucks roster as defense being the real weak point, right? You can look at the top 6, the top 9, and say, yeah, this is a really solid group. But we look at the defensive core, and it's a bunch of depth. Right. That's really what it mostly is. You got a couple of really high end potential in guys like Quinn Hughes. Hopefully Oliver Ekman-Larsson can be sort of a mid-tier defenseman. But then you have a lot of guys like your Schenns, your Hunt, Yule Levy, a bunch of guys who probably aren't going to be much. So you're going to need guys like Jet Wu, Jack Rathbone. You need them to sort of overachieve. Because it's a lot easier to get good defensemen from within than it is to go and trade for them, because defenseman values are crazy, and especially free agency, as we saw this last offseason, going out and picking up a good defenseman in free agency is going to cost you a ton. So you really want guys like Jet Wu to become full-time NHLers.
Exactly. You hit it right there, is that when we're spending $2.5 million on Pullman or $3 million on this guy and that guy, when you can bring guys in ELCs up and making $900,000, that's $800,000. That's a huge difference. Now, of course, it exposes them a little bit. I don't know if you want to, blue line that has both Wu and Rathbone and Yule Levy, like all 3 of them at the same time. You won't. That's not going to happen. But the point still stands. Is you're right. It's you, instead of having to spend that money and fight everyone else in a free agent market where everyone's trying to get a sturdy right-handed shot D. Yeah. Build from within and bring those guys up. We see it in the forward ranks when you had guys like PD for 3 years, obviously, and Podkolzin now and Hoglander on their ELCs. It makes such a big difference. And we're seeing the contrast in that now that PD needs a new contract. I know we're going to talk about that extensively in a few minutes. So overall, you're right. Now that Rathbone and Podkolzin ultimately probably can't call them prospects after this season, they're going to be playing some games with the team. Yeah, it doesn't look as promising as it did 3 or 4 years ago, but that's because all of our prospects have been pretty good and we brought them up pretty darn quick. So it's a catch-22, right?
And it's always easy to look at, a team's cupboard of prospects and be like, man, this future looks bright. Look at the Canucks prospect cupboard 6 years ago, right? We're looking at guys like Dane Fox and being like, this kid's going to be the future. And, he never played an NHL game. And this happens a lot with every team, right? So you can go and you can look at the prospect covers for the Canucks and you can say, well, there's a lot of names in there, but how many of them really have that high end potential? And like you said, you really need those guys to pan out. Let's go on to, I guess, rookie camp. It was what we just talked about. Let's go into the main camp because training camp starts. I put Thursday on here. It's Wednesday.
Actually, you're right. Thursday's on ice, though. Wednesday's all the medical.
Right. That is why I put Thursday. I'll leave it.
So you're fine.
So Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m. is just a media availability. So that'll be the preseason sort of media gathering. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday on ice sessions, all of them between 3.5 and 4.5 hours long. Of on ice sessions at the Abbotsford Center. I assume they'll be split into a couple of groups, would be my guess. They're probably not going to all be out on the ice for 3.5, 4 hours. But it's exciting. We have players taking the ice. There's going to be a lot of things to watch out for. Especially, some spots are being opened up, right? A fourth line winger spot today, we just heard, is probably going to be opened up at the start of the season. We'll get to that. And tickets are available. You can actually go to training camp if you want. I think it'll be 50% capacity. So if you do want to see some Canucks skating, you can go do that.
Well, so much to unpack, Parker, but can you put up Agam's, is it Agam? Ajam. I asked this. Agam, the Garland one. So this is interesting because the thoughts on Garland one. So we never want to speculate on this. There's been some talk that the team is very close to being 100% vaccinated, of course, because you can get suspended if you're not vaccinated, all those kind of things. And some teams have actually come out and said, we are 100% vaccinated. We are 100%. And the Canucks haven't done that. They hinted that they are close to it. And then kind of all the Twitter detectives were saying, hey, how come there's no Connor Garland in any of the highlight packages that the Canucks are putting out of the guys informally skating at Rogers Arena? But I think we were reading the same article. I believe that Thomas Drance and others have reported that Connor Garland is now in Vancouver. So whether that means that he was not vaccinated and is or is going to be, or maybe it wasn't even him, I'm just more importantly happy that he will not miss training camp as opposed to two other guys that we're going to talk about, but potentially. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because I know that story was kind of make the rounds. You don't want to speculate, but it's not hard to also,
we have no information, right? Like we can speculate, people can speculate all you want, but at the end of the day, the team probably will be 100% vaccinated by the time the season starts. And whoever isn't, you'll be able to tell who it is because they'll have a separate protocol that they'll be following, like with media and everything. So nothing to really worry about there, I don't think. But yeah, so let's start with training camp.
Sure.
Thursday, 9 a.m. to 1:15, Friday, 9 a.m. to 12:30, and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 1:30. Sorry, it's just a table and it's confusing my eyes. All of these, if you want to attend, I think it's like $5 for a ticket, and it all goes to Canucks for Kids Fund. Except I'm sure Ticketmaster takes a cut because they do that, but
they do.
But what's really interesting about this is guys that we'll get to see, right? We'll get to see Podkolzin out there with the main squad. We'll get to see, is he on your side? And does it look like he might be competing for a second line spot, or will he likely slot in on that third line with guys like Dickinson and Pearson? And the fourth line gets a little bit interesting now, as we heard today that Tyler Mott will not be in attendance for training camp. And I think Jim Benning said they're going to reevaluate in 3 weeks, which makes it seem like it's not a day-to-day issue. And it's not like, in 3 weeks, start of the season, he'll be good to go. It's looking a little iffy on that front.
Yeah. And Parker, this story is weird, man, because when he missed half the season last year, hardly anyone said anything because they were worried about PD's injury. They were worried about Benning getting extended, Green's contract, COVID, right? There's so much crazy stuff happening from March to May. Barely remembered that Tyler Mott didn't play for the last little bit of the season. Then we started to hear rumblings in the summer from Irfan Gaffar and others that Mott might not be ready for the start of training. Like, what the heck? We these kind of flew under the radar given everything that's happening. And then Thomas Drance and Rick Dollywell, they put something on Athletic just an hour before we press record here. And they're saying that he likely was out with a head injury at the end of last season, but that he had surgery that you're right, that he's got to recover from, but might not be related to, because you can't have a surgery for concussion, that potentially surgery on something else. So he battled concussion issues, it sounds like, at the end of last season, and then he had surgery to fix something else. And all to say that's now another spot that will open up at least maybe to start the season. Then all these arguments about Highmore, McEwen, maybe it's going to be both of them. Who knows?
Yeah, because that was one of our poll questions that we asked you guys last week. And if you guys missed it, we did a big sort of prop bet extravaganza that everyone could join, and you could make your predictions. If you haven't yet, it's still in the description. You have until October 13th to make your predictions. 63 people have so far. And one of our questions was, who plays more games? Matthew Highmore or Zach McEwen, both sort of battling it out for that fourth line winger spot. Well, now it looks like there's a real chance that both of them are in the lineup on night one. With Mott likely being out. And the results from that 62% going with Highmore, 38% going with McEwen. So pretty split down the middle, slight edge going to Highmore. But yeah, we will probably see a prolonged audition for the both of them, right? We'll see them both in training camp, both in preseason, and likely both for the first week, 2 weeks of the season, battling out on the same line together.
And this is a good place to land, Parker, when we talk about potential training camp battles. This was going to be one, right? We thought it'd be one spot though to play along with Sutter and Mott, and now it's potentially two spots, especially if Mott's not going to be ready. So then, does Highmore have the edge, as 62% of our prop bet participants said? Then does McEwen? I've always said I'm not sure Travis Green trusts Zach McEwen as an everyday fourth liner, but you kind of need some toughness and some size. Then you have all this AHL depth like Justin Bailey and Nick Pettersson and Phil DiGiuseppe that you could easily see them. Was that
Will Lockwood even could be an option too? We saw him get a couple of games at the end.
Even Klimovich might do something crazy. Yeah. So you have a half dozen guys that might be vying. I really think you can pencil in Highmore for one of those two spots. I don't see him being beat out by two guys, right? You know what I mean? So I think Highmore will get one of them, and then I think the McEwen one, I think he's got the inside track, but you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, we know that the team likes what they've seen from Justin Bailey in the past. And Zach McEwen, like we've mentioned, didn't have a great year last year. So I could see that sort of being an open competition, especially in camp, right? You're going to have, Bailey, Lockwood, Dowling, Pettersson, like all these guys you mentioned, they all could be in the mix for one of these spots. And if they don't get it, they're going to be there if there's more injuries, right? And we're totally assuming, let's say Mott misses the first 3 weeks of the season recovering from the surgery, right? Someone else will likely get hurt in that time, right? First 3 weeks of the season, it's likely that another forward will miss at least a game or two, right? And then we are going to see these other guys coming up. And that is what is one of the nice things about having the team so close, at least. But yeah, like there is a good chance that we do see, a Justin Bailey or a Will Lockwood getting some NHL games early on in the season.
Yep, you're exactly right, Parker. And guys, like, I admit I don't know a lot about them, but I know that DiGiuseppe has played games in the NHL. I know that Nick Pettersson, because I recognize the name, he's played some games in the NHL. So at least you're not dipping down to the Abbotsford roster and pulling up a guy who's never played before. That's the whole point of why Abbotsford is so deep this year. I understand they have the second biggest AHL payroll behind the Toronto Marlies. So pretty exciting stuff that you're right. You can dip down and grab someone who's got NHL experience as opposed to hoping and praying that they can do okay in their 4 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of mentioned some of those depth options. The Canucks have like 3 guys who are just 27-year-old depth guys, right? DiGiuseppe, 27 years old. Nick Pettersson, 26 years old. Sheldon Dries, 27 years old, right? All these, they have so many basically 4th, 5th, 6th line caliber players that are, veterans in the NHL at this point that have all played, probably around 200 games a piece, I would say 130, 200. Dries has only played about 50. But, guys who have been there before and should be easy to slot into the lineup, especially if they are staying, conditioned, getting that AHL time. where they'll actually get some good ice time. And it'll be good to motivate the AHL team too, right? Especially if, there's a bunch of guys down there that are competing for NHL spots and they're like, look, it's an hour away, right? The NHL team is only an hour away. If I have a great night and the team wants to shake something up, maybe I get called up for a game because it doesn't cost the team any real money to do that. So it could be an interesting sort of wrinkle in the season.
Yeah, and then talking about all this depth, Parker, battling for the fourth line. I don't think the Canucks need to bring in any guys on a PTO, professional tryout. I know that's how we got Hamonic at the start of last season, so it does work. Jack Skilly a few years ago, but I don't know if we need to do so. I know there's rumors about Tyler Ennis who went to Ottawa PTO. So what do you think? You have any thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I think because the best you're going to get off a PTO is, a fourth liner. Right.
Yeah.
And the Canucks have those in spades. Like we said, they signed 28 guys at the start of free agency this year. They solved the depth problem. There's no excuse for the whole injuries this year, right? I mean, there could be if like big names go down, but they've got the depth to weather off any storm. You lose your entire fourth line to injury. Well, you have another one. like you have enough fourth liners to ice, basically the entire AHL roster. So and a lot of guys who are similar caliber, and that's what's going to make this training camp interesting. We might, we talk about, Highmore and McEwen, but if they're competing for one spot, it just takes one guy to have an unreal training camp and sort of push them both down. So, especially when you're talking about 7 guys who can basically push for that spot, it starts to get, a little bit more interesting there.
Yeah. So, all to say, with the news and the confirmation of Mott's absence, it makes that fourth line battle. Now there's 2 battles and makes it even more intriguing, at least at the bottom of the lineup for sure.
Absolutely. Anything at training camp you're looking for at the top of the lineup? I know you've mentioned sort of your Podkolzin.
Yeah.
Push for the second line is what you're hoping for.
Yeah. I just, not to beat a dead horse, and I'm not the only one saying this. I just think if he has a really good camp like Hoglander had last year, I admit I didn't think Hoglander would make the team last year, and he made me look like a dummy. So maybe Podkolzin does really well, and it's ironic that him and Hoglander become really fast friends. The 2 top picks of the 2019 draft, and in my eyes, they're going to be competing for the same spot. Now, whoever doesn't get it, it's the consolation prize of playing with Dickinson and Pearson, for instance, is fine. Like that's going to be an excellent top 9, but I just don't think we should pencil in Hoglander as an automatic on the second line. I'm not there yet.
Interesting for sure. And to go just a quick touch on our prop bets that we did, point predictions for Niels Hoglander, the median was 45.5. And for Podkolzin, it was 37.5. So definitely people are leaning towards Hoglander getting more ice time, but there's some people who are really high on Podkolzin. I mean, we saw some. I'll see if I can pull up some of the actual results, but we have, someone said he'll get 75 points this year. That's way outside the high end, but there's a lot of people in the high 30s, low 40s range for sure.
I know when I did it, I gave 40 to both of them. I was kind of a wimp. I didn't go either way.
10% of people have said 40 points for Podkolzin. And so we're going to have, like I said, those 4 days of training camp. You planning on attending, making the trip out to Abbotsford?
It's gonna be a little tough because I work full time Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. Parker, this is the one Saturday where I actually don't have a discussion group for my masters, but then that means I can go bowl. So bowling or training camp. I don't know. I'm showing myself as not a good Canucks fan. I don't know, but I want to bowl, man. I like bowling.
That is fair. I haven't looked at the weather yet.
Yeah. You gonna be golfing?
If it's sunny, golf will be on the agenda, I'm sure. And it looks like it will be partly cloudy all day. So I might not be making the trip out to Abbotsford.
We've been exposed, man. You are the golfer. I am the wannabe bowler, and none of us are going to Abbotsford. Well, we got to get a media pass. That's what we got to do. Maybe that's what we should work on.
Hey, I'll be honest. I submitted it.
Oh, good for you.
I doubt I'll get it, but
Good
no
for
point
you.
in not trying. That would be funny though if
that'd be great. Out. And if we got a pass, no, you should go, man. That's people think I'm media in a good way or a bad way, anyways. Already, no, you do it. I'm so glad you did. That's awesome.
And then, so like I said, that ends on the Saturday. So 1:30 p.m. They come off the ice on Saturday, and then they make the trip down to, I think, Spokane.
Yeah, they got to fly because you're not allowed to go land crossing. So
I think you for business.
That's true. Business or not essential,
Yeah.
but business. You're right.
But I think it's in Spokane, which is not really super convenient for driving.
No, it's like it's 3 hours to the east once you get down across the border. Yeah,
it's a pain to get there. So
they'll drive.
But Sunday night, I think it's Sunday night. I think it's 6 p.m. See if I can pull it up quickly. 6 p.m. on Sunday. Canucks at Kraken, preseason hockey. It'll be on sport. I don't know if it'll be on Sportsnet. I was going to say it would be, but we haven't heard anything, and I didn't check my TV guide or anything.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it will be, though, or at least streamed online, because I would really like to see some Canucks hockey on TV.
It's just weird, Parker, to hear you say the Canucks playing the Kraken.
Yeah.
That's just weird.
It is weird. It's a brand new team, and it'll take some getting used to, but it's gonna be really cool to see. I mean, I think it's the Kraken's first preseason game, so it'll be the first time seeing their jerseys out on the ice against Vancouver's, and then we'll get that. I think they play twice against the Kraken in the preseason. On Sunday and then on Tuesday the 5th. So we'll have an episode right before that, the day before that.
Parker, they're kind of artificially, or maybe intentionally building up this rivalry. Not really, but their first preseason game ever is against us. Their first home game ever is going to be against us, right? So a few firsts, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's smart marketing by the NHL. They want this to be a real rivalry because they know, you look at Edmonton, Calgary, and the ratings that draws in, right? And if they can try to make a similar experience between these two teams, being I'm sure they wish the land border was open because I'm sure they would love it if like 30% of the crowd on opening night was Canucks fans and there was actually like real back and forth. That would be insane and really cool to see. But we will get 7 preseason games for the Canucks over the course of about 2 weeks. Actually, the course of basically exactly 2 weeks. So Sunday the 26th, and then the following day, Monday the 27th, they're back in Abbotsford at the Abbotsford Center to take on the Flames. So a chance, I think tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So if you do anyone wants to go to that game on Monday, 7 p.m., a week from today, we're going to have a Canucks After Dark episode, basically right when that game ends. So that'll be a nice little night for everybody. You can watch the game, watch it on TV, go to the game. And then when you get home, you can watch Canucks After Dark.
I just thought of something, Parker. What happens in the regular season when you're trying to do your post-game live shows on a 7 p.m. game or maybe on a Monday? Or
I think there's only like one of them. I think we looked at it, and I'll just make it snappy. No, I think I looked at it. I think the Canucks only play on a Monday 3 times all season, and I think 2 of them are on the road at like 4 and 5 p.m. And I think the other one might be at like 6:30. So
it's interesting. You mentioned the 2 things there. President Biden extended the land border, whatever, for another month. So it actually ends October 21st. So technically, if it's lifted,
that's the dilemma I'm in, because I think I think my hotel cancellation date is like the 20th. So I'll need the announcement to happen early in the morning if they're extending it again. Because my plan was to go down the Saturday to the Monday, probably not go to the game on the Saturday, the Canucks and Kraken, the first game in Seattle, because the ticket's like $1,000 US.
Oh, gee.
And like I said, I'm not spending that much money. But then I have tickets to the Seahawks game on the Monday, so it'll be sad if I can't go. But I can always watch on TV.
No, for sure. And the other thing I was going to say about the preseason is then after that quick back-to-back, firstly in Spokane, then in Abbotsford, the Canucks have 3 home games of the remaining 5 or 6. And then I'm going to try and get to 2 of them. I can't do the Tuesday one against the Kraken because that's my bowling night. But I think there's a Sunday against a Winnipeg and then a Saturday night against the Oilers right before preseason ends. So I'm going to try and hit those 2. I don't know if you're planning to go to any exhibition games, Parker.
I might. We
might actually meet in person.
I have considered the Monday one because tickets are on sale tomorrow, but being in Abbotsford, getting back in time for the show would be impossible. Although I could probably do it from there. So we'll see. But yeah, I might try to get out to a game. Like you said, the Sunday one might be a good bet just because it's 4 p.m. game at home. So it's nice and early. Get home by like 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have preseason hockey, and I was supposed to switch the thing to this. We have preseason hockey starting in literally 6 days. So yeah, next time we talk to you guys, we will have seen 2 preseason games. And we'll get a sort of picture of what the team looks like. We'll actually get to see some line rushes. We'll get to see some players playing together, right? We'll get to see how do guys like Dickinson and Pearson work together potentially, or with Podkolzin, and how is the Garland Hoaglander experiment sort of working. It'll be really interesting to see if the offense does click early, or if they're going to need some time to adjust.
I'm just excited in everything you said there. I agree with everything, but I'm excited that you potentially said you might go to that Sunday, October 3rd game. If I go to that, we'll actually meet in person. We'll walk up to each other, and then my first reaction will be, wow, Parker's really tall. And your reaction will be, where is he? I can't see. And you're looking, oh, there you are, Clay.
Yeah, I think 4 p.m. on a Sunday I can do. So let's
do it. Okay.
Let's do it.
We'll chat. Okay.
All right. Going from there, so we know that we have Canucks hockey. What we don't know is who will be in the lineup on Sunday against the Kraken. We're going to have, like I said, these 4 days of training camp or 3 days of on-ice sessions leading into 2 preseason games and back-to-back days before they get about 3 days off between those. I'm sure they'll just have more practices. But we don't know if Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes are going to be there. We've sort of beat this horse to death, but every week there's something new to talk about.
And before we break the news from tonight, do you want to get it? Because once we get going, we're going to go about 10, 15 minutes. Do you want to don't do that first, or do you want to wait till we're done?
Let's wait. I'm excited.
Okay, let's go.
Save your don't do that's for 10:45. Did you want to start with that he's not here anymore?
Sure. Because I think right at I'm giggling because right at the start, I think Robert said, great to see.
I saw the
Pettersson.
message. He's like, good to see that Petey's in town.
Well, you guys,
he's gone.
We hate to break it to you. Petey is not in town anymore. He is being confirmed that he's in Michigan with his other unsigned buddy, represented by the same agency, Mr. Quinn Hughes. So the good thing is, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. I'll start, Parker, and then just jump in. They're going to be together. They're going to be training at least. It's not like they're going to be playing video games for every single day. So at least they're training, and there are 2 most important pieces of our team. At least they're together. But the fact that he had to leave town, because that kind of says it's not going to happen tomorrow, that to me. And the fact that they're represented by the same agency, they don't have to make any power moves. They're already the most powerful agency, but it's a very unique negotiating situation. I don't know how you're feeling, Parker, when you first read that PD is no longer in Vancouver after less than 40 hours in town.
Yeah. So basically the backstory, he came to town, then he just went off to Michigan with Quinn, and they're like, all right, we're trading down here. Yeah, I'm not, again, I keep saying that I'm not too worried, but now I think the bigger news that came from today was this morning, I think it was, I don't remember who said it. I had it open and I closed it. Rick Dollywall on Twitter says from Elliot Friedman, who said the 2 sides are talking every day. It's all over the map. I don't think the pressure point is training camp. The real pressure point is the start of the season. Now, for months, we have been saying they'll be done by training camp. They'll be done by training camp. We have months until training camp. Guys, training camp starts in 34 and a half hours is media availability. It won't be done by then. But now they're saying, the pressure point isn't training camp. So both sides are willing to let it go past training camp. So when is the line, right? We can look at the games. You got to think they'd want to at least get some preseason action, which would be, the last preseason game's October 9th. So 19 days away. So 2.5 weeks or so if they want any preseason action. If they want to play most of the preseason games, they have about 12, 13 days to get it done. I don't know.
Are you telling me, Parker, we could potentially be talking about this for the next 3 weeks still?
We could be. We really could be. And and we've been hoping for a long time that it would just be done.
Yeah.
I've been waiting, and I'm like, all right, well, if it gets done on a Thursday, do we just like do a show that night? What are we gonna do? And I'm like thinking this in my head now. I'm thinking like, why am I wasting my time considering these things? It's gonna get done on like October 12th or something.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be in the lineup for opening night, but will they? We don't know. It's the Canucks need to get it done before opening night, because if they aren't signed, and let's say the Canucks go out and end up losing the first 2 games of the season, right? They go 0-2 to start the season, which in the grand scheme of an 82-game season isn't much. But what do you think the optics are going to be there, right? Oh, the Canucks lost by a goal. If only Elias Pettersson was out there, right? And we're going to get, this, just the storylines that will evolve and evolve and evolve. And it's one thing if you are a team that's like going to make the playoffs, right? If you're Tampa Bay and you have a player holding out, you're still going to make the playoffs, right? So it's not a huge deal. But for the Canucks, I mean, we looked at our median for point predictions from you guys was 95. I think 94 to 96 is normally the bubble. So according to you guys, every team or every point is going to matter for this team. And so if you are missing your best forward, your best player, Elias Pettersson, and your number 1 defenseman for night 1 of the season, it is going to be absolute mayhem.
Yeah. Yes. So here's another point to add to that, Parker. I'm not sure if you heard Brock Besser talk on Sportsnet 650 today. So he was asked, because he 2 years ago missed training camp and then signed right before the preseason games 2 years ago. And they asked him, where's the pressure point? And he basically said the start of the season, not the start of training camp. He also said that, as we anticipated, that the guys, they get it. They get it's part of the business. There's no hard feelings towards PD and Hughes. Sure, they want to get it to a good start, but these players are smart. They know it's a business, and the better that PD and Hughes do, sure, they take up some of the cap, but overall, you want your teammates to get well paid, because it's going to help you in the future too. So I'm not worried that there's going to be dissension or anything like that. I just want, as a fan, I want our best team, best chance to win, and obviously those 2 guys got to be part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, part of it for me is, opening night of the season, I'm fired up to watch some hockey. And it's not going to be as good the product won't be as good without them on the ice, right? First and foremost, we are both Canucks fans and we're with hockey fans. We want to see good hockey. We don't want to go out there and watch the New York Islanders on a night-to-night basis, right? Good team, not great hockey, at least to watch. And losing guys, I mean, we saw it last year when Elias Pettersson was out of the lineup, right? It's something missing. And it's the electricity when he's on the ice, the potential to make something happen out of nothing. And the same with Quinn Hughes, right? I mean, you see him on the power play, just doing these button hooks around people. And that's such a dynamic piece of the puzzle that now if you're putting out Oliver Ekman-Larsson on PP1 or Tyler Myers on PP1, it's nowhere near the same, right? Or if in that one-timer spot, you have to move like Miller over there instead of Pettersson, or I don't know exactly what you're going to do, but it's just a whole huge threat missing. And if it's 2 threats missing from the power play, that's going to be a big hindrance at the start of the season. So I think they get it done by the start of the season, but we are running out of time. And how have you heard running out of time before? But it is starting to get worrisome.
And I'll admit it, I have some people going back at me in my videos now because Clay, you said that you wouldn't be worried until the start of training camp. And so I'm not 100% worried, but obviously I'd rather it be done than not.
So you're allowed to be worried in 2 days.
Okay. So we'll get back to you in 2 days then. Okay. Not worried.
It's not going to be, the thing is, it's not going to be done in 2 days. So why don't we just be worried now? Right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm confused now. I'm not sure when I'm going to be worried, but I think I am.
It's wild. And we keep hearing things get changed. We went from both being bridge to Pettersson being bridge and Hughes being long-term. And now we're back to both being bridge again. It changes every week. Every week we talk about it, every week it has changed. So I don't know. They might both be bridge deals, and that might just be down to simplicity at this point, right? Easier to get done. But like we heard from Friedman, he said that's all over the place, all over the map, which means they're probably looking at everything, which means there's not much for us to expect safely. We're just going to have to see what happens and who's in the lineup on opening night.
Wonder what the over under is on total minutes we spent talking about the contract situation over the past 2 months.
Probably 100.
Yeah, 10 minutes, 10 to 50 minutes per episode for 8 to 10 episodes, maybe. Yeah,
that would be my guess.
I got one more that's kind of related.
Sure.
I might catch you off guard without the banner, but Jack Hughes talking about Quinn Hughes, saying the Canucks, that's what happens when you play on a bad team. I was fine with it. That's a young, however old Jack is, saying that defending his brother. The point of his talk was that he was defending his brother, not that he was saying that the Canucks are bad and trash. And because technically we were last year, so
yeah, he wasn't.
I had no problem with it.
The Canucks were the worst team in their division last year. They finished dead last.
Yeah.
And they were one of the worst teams in the league last year. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, you're saying that from the New Jersey Devils, who are way worse. It's like, yeah, his team's also bad. That doesn't mean our team wasn't, right? He's not calling out the Canucks. He's saying, hey, the reason my brother didn't play well last year is because the team sucked, right? Yeah. He's advocating for his brother. He's not trying to put the team down. The whole reaction to it. And what was wild to me was there were so many, I saw 10 times more people on Twitter saying you're all overreacting than I actually saw people overreacting. I feel like this happens all the time where everyone sort of picks on one person who has said something kind of silly. And everyone's like, oh, everyone's saying this. And no, everyone's kind of on the same side here. Everyone knows the team wasn't good last year. Jack Hughes' team wasn't either. He knows what he's talking about. So yeah, just kind of a mess of a silly thing going on today.
Yeah, just like if one of us defended the other guy, that makes sense. We would defend our podcasting partner, and if we have to put down someone else to do so, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so if we wanted to do some stats based stuff, I could say, wow, Clay, some of your live streams at the end of last season didn't do so well. It's like, yeah, because no one cared about the team at the end of last season, right? Like, it's the same sort of idea. You look at my videos from the end of last season after the COVID outbreak, they did terrible. And I expected that because no one cared about what the team was doing. So it's kind of the same boat.
I hear you.
Quinn Hughes will be fine. The Canucks will be fine. Jack Hughes will be fine.
And you and I will be fine. Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. I think now we could do you have any more banners?
Almost.
Oh, you got a new one. I can feel it. Oh, very good. Lead us in, Parker.
All right.
Oh, by the way, before we do this,
go for it.
Give some props to yourself. You did a podcast appearance this week.
I did. Yeah. I went on Joshua Ray's podcast, Avid Discussers. Nice. It was a really fun time. Just chatted with him for about 30 minutes. Talked about YouTube, talked about what we expect from the Canucks this season. So if you do, after listening to this one, of course, you can go check it out if you want. I think I'm on at around the 32-minute mark or so. So if you want,
you did a good job, man. It was good.
If you just wanted to listen to my part, I mean,
and I bring that up because you talked about this segment in your chat with Joshua.
Yeah, about how it just sort of naturally spawned. Yes. But yeah, so don't do that for those of you who are new. And I think we do have a few new faces in here. It's basically a segment where you submit your don't do that's. And I saw one of them. I'll see if I can find it. Time for Rocky said, waiting to do don't do that till 10:45. Don't do that.
Well, we beat it by a minute. Yeah.
We did beat it by a minute. So you guys can submit your don't do that's in the comments. Of course, anything political we're going to ignore as we normally do. So keep that in mind. Keep it hockey related typically, or somewhat topical. But Agam says running out of time. Please do not do that. And
yes.
Like we said, it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah. I'll put one that's not there yet. Making fun of my last name when I'm trying to vote. Don't do that. Did you see the story? It was ridiculous.
Yeah. So why don't you recount that? Because that was actually really funny.
Yeah. Just as people submit their don't do that. A quick 1 minute story. I go to vote. I hand the guy my card, and he goes, "Oh, I've never seen this name before until today." And I said, "Oh, it's probably my son, Sean." So sure enough, as he's crossing my name off, I see 2 below me that's Sean, because Gail's in between us, and alphabetical, of course. And then as he gives me my license back, he goes, "Yeah, that's a very," oh no, it goes, "How do you pronounce your last name?" I said, "Emo." It looks like emo, but it's Emo. I'm Japanese. He goes, "Okay." Then he goes, "That's a very odd name." Like, he didn't say unique. He didn't say,
he didn't go like, "Oh, okay," or "Oh, neat." He went,
he said
"Oh."
odd. So
That's
then
odd.
I put it on Twitter, whatever. I had fun with it. And then, one person said I should have gone with the elementary school. "Well, your face is odd," something like that.
Yeah, get him back.
So anyways, it didn't distract me from voting. I voted. I won't say who I voted for, but I don't even know if the person I voted for won. But yes, that was my voting story. So making fun of my last name, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Lucas says not getting hyped for both the Vancouver and the Abbotsford Canucks. Don't do that. Absolutely. And I think having the farm team in Abbotsford is going to bring up fan interest a lot, which I'm excited for. Excited to chat about them a bit. And, I'm hoping they go on a run, and that'll be something fun to talk about.
Yes. Dexter, always protecting me. Dexter, chirping Clay Emo. Don't do that. I agree with that, Dexter. And Shannon, knocking on my kitchen window and scaring me to death. Don't do that. So I don't think she did it to herself. I presume someone else did that, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a horror film.
Sounds like a Coach Rob thing, if you ask me.
Tiger says having your 2 all-stars sit out camp. Don't do that. Yeah, I agree. And we're sort of sticking with that. Time for hockey. Kind of interesting one. Not putting Gadjevich in the Canucks opening lineup. Don't do that. Do you see any scenario where Jonah Gadjevich ends up in the lineup night 1?
I don't, Parker, and proof is in the pudding. You and I did not mention it. We rattled off 8 or 9 names.
We mentioned Phil DiGiuseppe, Nick Patan, Justin Dowling, Justin Bailey. I think there was a Will Lockwood. Jonah Gadjevich didn't really impress that much at the end of last season, and that's one of the reasons I was advocating so much for the Canucks to give him some ice time. Was so we could see whether or not he would be a real important piece of the team in the future. We got a taste showing that he might not be, but that obviously doesn't mean his career's over and he's never going to make it. But it shows that he probably needs more time seasoning in the AHL. And if the Canucks are trying to compete this year and maximize development, he's better served in Abbotsford.
Absolutely. Oh, there's so many good ones there. Even Justin, I know a good friend of ours. I know we don't want to get political, but you don't have to put it on thing, but his is pretty funny. I just wanted to acknowledge that one, Justin, about comparing OEL to the election.
Oh yeah.
That was good.
Justin also had a good one saying being a Kraken fan in Vancouver. Don't do that. I cheer for whoever you want. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, we will have some fun. When the Canucks and Kraken are playing at Rogers Arena, it will be interesting to see what the sort of dispersion is between the two teams, and it'll be a good rivalry I'm hoping for.
Yeah. And it starts this Sunday. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that the Canucks are going to play an actual game this Sunday, which is
it has felt like a long off season.
Yeah. By the way, our viewers just shot up while we don't do that.
Yeah, people love the segment. So thank you guys. And by the way, hit the like button while you're here, because it helps us out.
Absolutely.
Poor Shadow, not putting a chicken patty in each of my junior chickens. I've had that before, except usually it's when I ask for 2 and they only give me 1.
Wait, isn't it called chicken patty?
Yeah, they just didn't put the chicken in his junior chicken.
Sorry, it's not called chicken patty, it's called junior chicken. I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
I must be tired.
Let's see, anything else here? Yes, it was Coach Rob that knocked on her window. All right. I think that's good for our don't do that's. I think do we have anything else that we want to talk about? I think we wanted to maybe spend a little bit of time on some of your predictions. And this is a good time while we do have a lot of people in here. At the top of the description, the first link in the description is a link to make predictions on the season. Something like 63 of you guys already have. And I went and I tallied some of your results just so we could get sort of an idea on what you guys were thinking on how the Canucks will do, who's going to be getting points for them. So just a quick little taste. And if you haven't done that yet, feel free to go do so. So yeah, like I said, Average person predicts 95 points. And people are saying that the top line is going to do really well. Elias Pettersson, 80 points, Brock Besser, 73, and JT Miller, 72. So that will be interesting to keep track of. Another one I wanted to touch on, the average person thinks Klimovich will play 0 games this season. And one other fun one is goaltenders. The average or the median for Thatcher Demko's save percentage was .918. So people think he is going to have a truly, like, that's almost Vezina caliber, like at least in the consideration for it. If Thatcher Demko can put up a .918 with this defense in front of him, he's going to be in talks for that Vezina trophy.
Give me how many games does Micah DiPietro play? What was the average for that?
Average was 3.
Okay.
Which I think is what we both settled around, right? Someone gets injured, something happens there. But yeah, that was kind of just thought we'd touch on a couple of those. While we're here, you guys can leave us some questions, some topics you want to talk about. We got about 10 minutes left in the show. We always like to save a little bit of time for your topics. Normally we have it spread out with Don't Do That to try to balance the engagement out. But if you guys do have any questions, any topics, I'm sure, we've gone over quite a few and you might have missed a couple of them. We had talked about Tyler Mott, Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, training camp, rookie camp, preseason, and Jack Hughes, which was our biggest topic of the night.
I think the fact that they've listened to us ramble for 45 minutes before even getting Don't Do That, I think they deserve us answering their questions for the next 10. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Lucas says Arizona going back to the Kachino jerseys full time. What are your thoughts on that?
I like them. I think it's unique. I actually like it.
Yeah, me too. The style's much more fun. And I think hockey takes itself really seriously a lot of the time. And I mean, we saw the opposite of that with the reverse retros, especially look like the Wild Wing jersey in Anaheim, things like that. I really love to see every once in a while. So it'll be good to see Arizona going back to a more unique logo.
Yeah. Can you answer Dexter's? Cause
I'm 5'10", and I think they're asking this because you said I'm going to be towering over you.
Yeah. You wouldn't even see me.
It's not that I'm tall.
Well, I'll just say, if you reverse the numbers in my height, I'd be 6'5". Let's just say that.
That's one way to look at it.
Yes. Can you, Tigers, who else heard rumors Tyler Ennis was going to get a PTO before he took one with the Sens? Sounds like they have some PTOs to announce. It's funny. Thomas Drance and Harmon Dial in their late night post on The Athletic, they said that's potential, but Park and I kind of talked about it earlier, Tiger, where we said there's so many depth guys battling for a fourth line, and are PTOs going to be a step above that? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it would be such an incremental upgrade, right? If you're talking about Ennison over like Highmore, it's like, it might be an upgrade, but is it going to earn you a couple extra points in the season? Probably not.
Sure. Chris says, are we going back to the stick rink jersey this season? I don't know. Have you heard anything?
I don't think so. I could see them doing the not the reverse retro, but the heritage one that they did 2 years ago. I could see them going back to that for like 3 or 4 games like we've seen them do in the past, but I don't think they're going to use it too much.
Can you put Evans? Is there any other team in major cap issues? I believe Minnesota is. That's why they're struggling with the Kaprizov one, I believe, because they got all those buyout costs, right?
They spent it was like $50 million on buying out Parise and Suter over the course of however long it is, or I think that's what the numbers were. But they're in trouble on the cap. But the Canucks are in the most trouble other than that, I think, and it's really because their 2 best players aren't signed.
John's offering us both Engvall and I can't even say his name, Mikheyev. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Are those guys good?
I liked Mikheyev last year, honestly, for the Leafs. But I think he scored a couple goals against the Canucks. But again, he's going to take Highmore's spot. It's going to be it's going to be a slight upgrade. But
and it's great that everyone's here. John, thank you for coming, 3 hours ahead. So pushing 2 a.m. there. You combine me and Parker's subscribers and times it by 4, we get to where John's at. So keep up the good work, John.
Dexter asking if I've ever gotten in a fight. Not really. I punched a kid in like grade 2.
Similar then.
Have I heard about Clay's fight in grade 3? Don't mess with him. Let's hear about your scrap story.
Yeah, I just shared it on one stream recently. A kid threw my baseball cap over the fence. So I grabbed him and I smashed his head into the grass and said, "Go get my hat." So he got my hat and then I put it back on and walked away. That was it.
That's great. That's all I needed.
That's the story. Thanks, Tester.
Lucas says that the flying skate isn't coming back from what he's heard. So I'm sure they're going to bring it back every couple of years, just to, sell a few more. But for right now, probably not. Oh, this is one we didn't talk about. Justin Chara going back to the Islanders, back to where he was drafted, right? He was drafted by New York. And he's there on a 1-year contract. He's like 40. Is he 44?
I don't know. He's not that much younger than I am. That's for sure.
He is 44.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
was he good last year?
I heard he was like fine.
Okay.
I mean, we're seeing, he's making nothing, right? I think he's making like $1 million. I don't actually see the number. But yeah, he's on a cheap deal. Basically a depth defenseman, one of the best defensemen previously in the league, and we'll see. I guess I forgot he played for Washington last year.
Yeah, no, and the Isles have a pretty good defense, so I was surprised, but I don't know who they lost. So yeah, I was surprised a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's calling me a bully in the comments. Pretty funny.
Yeah, you are a bully.
I'm a jerk.
You can't just be throwing people's faces into the ground.
And yes, John, we talked about the Jack Hughes comments. You just have to rewind to about the 35, 37 minute mark when you have time.
Yeah, we touched on Jack Hughes being a jerk, mean guy.
Yes, Chris Seifert asked thoughts on VC's PTO. Who did he sign with? Like a team in the East, right?
I saw it and I have zero recollection. New Jersey.
I was excited. No, excited is probably too strong of a word. This is the same guy though who bought a David Booth jersey. I was intrigued when Jimmy Vesey signed because I remember the hype coming out of college, and I thought he could actually do something. The guy did nothing. Like he did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it was a good move, right? It was a free pickup off waivers, but we were looking at it and like, okay, this might be like an actual, like it's a free tryout, right? We're gonna bring VC in. Maybe he'll be a bit impressive, and then he's a depth player for us. And then the Canucks went and signed 80 depth players, and Jimmy VC has no room. So he's going to the Devils, off to a team where he'll play for mean man Jack Hughes. They signed VC, Jankowski, and Wotherspoon to PTOs. So he's competing for a spot, and even he might end up not making the NHL this year.
What do you think? Like, despite what Jack Hughes said, I know we had some fun with it. What do you think of that roster with Hughes and Heischer and now Dougie Hamilton going over there? You think they're good?
I like Dougie Hamilton a lot.
Yeah.
Honestly, I forgot he went there. But I don't see them getting a huge upgrade. Like they're in such a hard division.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Like they've got the Flyers to deal with, the Capitals, the Penguins, the Rangers are on an upswing, the Islanders, you can't score on, the Hurricane. Like every team in that division's pretty good. And the Devils are going to be the worst out of them, and they're going to have to play a lot of games against all of these teams. So I think they're going to be slightly better, but I think they're just going to get slaughtered.
They might be Columbus.
But that's, that's only one team.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know anything about Jack Eichel. Do you? Haven't heard a thing. It's kind of quiet.
Not a word. I still don't think he's gotten his surgery.
Wow. I'm just trying to see what else there is. Is that pretty good? We usually go to like 104 though, right?
We do, but we spend like 3 minutes wrapping up. You mentioned this beforehand, and Justin just brought it up. Jonathan Drouin. Well, this will be the last one we touch on. He had, was it an interview today that came out?
Yeah, and he talked about two reasons when he had that absence at the end of last year. I believe I saw he talked about anxiety and insomnia. Now, I admit I did not watch the clip that was posted, but I saw a text version that said that he talked about those two things. So if that's the case, no matter if you're a hockey player or a lawyer or accountant or whatever, it's anxiety is tough. Mental health is tough. I'm not saying it's depression. He didn't say that, but that's tough. All these things are very tough and are bigger than any type of profession that we're in. Couple that though with insomnia, when you're a professional athlete and you need rest and your body's got to get in a routine. I'm understanding that as just like not even an athlete, but just trying to become more healthy. That must have been tough. Like you just feel for a guy like that and then the expectations, right? Of all the expectations of playing where he's playing and high draft pick and all those things. I can see how it could be a rough go for a lot of people. So I'm glad that he's able to talk about it now. I'm sure it was very tough when it was happening 6 months ago.
Yeah. Something like insomnia, like you think about that and it's like, man, like for us where we work regular day jobs, if we don't get enough sleep, the next day sucks.
Yeah.
But being a professional athlete where your entire job is to work yourself to the point of exhaustion night in, night out, and then your body not be able to get the rest it needs after that. And then couple that with, his anxiety, things that he's run into, which I'm sure combined can't be helping things. I couldn't imagine, and especially with the pressures in that market. Totally. I'm not, no hate here.
Yeah. So I'm just reading one thing on ESPN, and I'm sure many reports left the team in April due to insomnia caused by his anxiety, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I'm glad he's better. Obviously we don't want anyone to suffer through that. So if he's talking about it, that's a good thing, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. We are going to wrap up the show there. By the way, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, if you missed any part of the show, which we know that the viewership shot up quite a bit near the end. So if you want, you can just rewind right to the beginning right now on YouTube if you'd like, or you can save it to your watch later and watch tomorrow, or you can catch up on your favorite podcast platform of choice. It's linked in the description. You can just search Canucks After Dark. And if you are listening on the podcast side, especially on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review leading into the season. It helps us out and we'll read it out on the show. Other than that, Clay, any parting words for the week?
Well, this just feels good, Parker. We did well over the summer. We did well to stay afloat and to make sure that we had enough engaging content. And a lot of it was because of you viewers and listeners. So thank you. But this truly feels like, and a couple people mentioned it already in the comments, this felt good from a standpoint of we weren't scrambling 5 minutes before saying, oh gosh, how are we going to fill an hour? We could have easily gone longer. We have the prop bets that we can always refer to. I love how you intertwine them, in some of our answers. This is what it's going to be like now for the next 8 months or 6 months, at least 7 months going forward, maybe even more. And, yes. And that's a good thing. Yeah. June. That's a really good thing. And, between, like I said, the golf tourney, the prospects, the main camp, preseason, contracts, no contracts, we're always going to have something to talk about now. And I'm here for it. I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm excited for what we're going to do together on this podcast.
Absolutely. And just sort of back that up, right? Next Monday's episode will be the night after a preseason hockey game. And then before our next episode, there'll be 3 more. And then the next episode after that is going to be 2 nights before the start of the regular season. And then we're just in it, right? Every week we're going to have, 3 games to look back on. There's going to be a ton of other news around the league, around the team. There's going to be so much going on. And we are going to have these shows every week for you. And by the way, if you're new to either one of us, you can find us on YouTube. We do a bunch of personal videos on the side. So you can follow me at ParkersPucks, Clay at Canuck Clay. Same thing on Twitter. It's all linked in the description or in the show notes if you're listening after the fact. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. It's going to be a really, really fun season, and we're glad you guys are going to spend it with us. And with that, we will see you next week.